Well, I wasn't too far out here, but I think, the gauges. Where we had TV.
On the short.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the camp plan. Put that up there. And I think I got my little notes.
You play with us. There you are.
I got my little stickies.
We're ready when you are, sir. I don't know. We have to keep it, so I was just passing it over to Chad. He hangs on to it. Nope.
Call to order the City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Thursday, March 23rd at 1:33 p.m. Public hearing. The Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Just for sake of time, we have a lot to cover and an hour and a half, so I'm going to read through a lot of this stuff real quick. So if somebody's got something to say, let's get it done. We'll keep moving. 2.1 PPLT and FPLT 23-000435 preliminary and final plat for Las Brisas subdivision FUD being a replat of Lot A, Block 47 State Land Surveys on Mustang Island, Nueces County, Texas, a map of which is recorded in volume 56, page 126, map records of Nueces County, Texas. Applicant Krisha Property, am I saying that right? Krisha Property Holdings LP, property location 2530 South 11th Street. Moving on, 2.2 PPLT and FPLT 23-000436 preliminary and final plat for Lot 1, Block 1, New Wave subdivision being a plat of Lot 1, Block 82 State Land Surveys on Mustang Island in the city of Port Aransas, Nueces County, Texas, as recorded in the General Land Office of the state of Texas, Austin, Texas. Applicant New Wave Vacation Rentals, property location 1305 Highway 361. Item 2.3 for public hearing, PPLT 23-000439 preliminary plat of Marisol subdivision 23.11 acres out of the Edward Hall Survey 588, land script 227, abstract 160, Nueces County, Texas, and being a portion of a 25.559 acre tract of land described in an assumption deed from Charles Castor Jr. to Marisol Villages LLC, recorded in document number 201-905-1116, official public records in Nueces County, Texas. Applicant Marisol Villages LLC, property location 4100 block of Highway 361. Item number 3, citizens' comments and report. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject matter. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The Planning and Zoning Commission may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. Our list up here has nobody on citizen comments. Moving on, items for consideration. Number 4. 4.1, discuss and take action. We're not doing that. Item 4.2, discuss and take action to confirm that dune permit BFDP 23-000312 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan. The proposed permit will allow the construction of single-family residential home and amenities. Applicant Shawport Properties LP, Logan Shaw, property location 1722 on the beach.
So this is a pretty standard dune permit application that you see here. It was previously granted, expired last year. And this is just a kind of a re-up and a little bit of a change from the last one. We do have our applicant engineer who I'll invite up to kind of go over the specifics of it with you.
I'm the applicant's engineer, Steven Skrabarczyk with Pape Dawson Engineers. This permit application is for a single family residential home. It was previously permitted, I believe, in 2019. And I worked on that permit as well. The one unique thing about this one is the previous permit called for some dune impacts and compensation. And the compensation was done incorrectly, but this permit addresses it pretty clearly in the exhibits and pushes it back up where it was supposed to be and combines it with the required compensation for the current permit application.
Am I getting this right? The total
Impact is 18.2 cubic yards.
Yes.
Yes,
Replacing more than we're impacted.
And then the mitigation is 23.8.
20, yes.
So this one was submitted early enough that we both got the city engineer's approval, and you'll see that letter in there. We were also able to send it to the general land office. So normally you guys don't see those comments prior to yours, but they are included in the packet. We got that back. So it'll go to council next month.
I admittedly have looked through most of this stuff, so if, yeah. If anybody needs or has questions, just pop up, let's do it. If everybody's reviewed it, and I'll light a motion at that time. Keep on going.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Marty Flynn has motion to approve. Mike Dayon is second of the motion. For BFDP 23-000312.
Okay. Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Barney Farley,
Yes.
and Chad Schmides.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Stephen, don't go anywhere. 4.3, discuss and take action to confirm that dune permit BFTP 23-000311 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan. The proposed permit will allow the construction of single-family residential home and amenities. Applicant Headwaters Real Estate LLC, property location 278 Beach Walkway.
Hang on just a second, I'm trying to forward that here for you. So this is a pretty similar situation. There was never been a house on this lot there. That's the main difference. And this one was back in 2014 when it was approved. It expired in 2017. The mitigation was started and not completed on the lot. They came forward for a building permit recently with a new owner. They understand what they need to do to move forward. Again, Stephen is our applicant engineer.
So this is another single family residential home. There was a dune on the lot or a pile of trash that had sand built up around it or something. Either way, we took the volume of whatever that was and we're treating it as critical dune. And we're building up the dunes behind the lot, seaward of it, and putting the mitigation on the city property immediately behind the beach walk lot.
So it's an off-site mitigation
Yes,
and city's agreeable to it.
Yeah, that basically is what a lot of that area is used for. This is another situation where we got this early enough to also send to the GLO. You'll see those letters in your packet as well. So this recommendation will go to council in April also.
also the dune that was on site was kind of isolated. It was on its own. So moving that material to the primary dune ridge is preferable.
Much better solution.
Are you suggesting we start dumping trash to build up our dunes?
No,
Is that the material that had the debris in it?
No, so the material that had the debris in it, the debris was removed and it was spread across the site. And this requires all new material to be brought in that meets there's some specific requirements in the, I forget exactly what I call that exhibit. Avoidance mitigation and
Right,
minimization procedures.
so we're importing material.
Yes,
And
and
where that's coming from?
it'll come from somewhere on Mustang Island. There's a couple different sources depending on which contractor the homeowner or their contractor picks to bring in the material.
and that's a pretty regular occurrence. That happens
Yeah,
quite often. Not from anywhere other than the island. So it's native material.
Search for proper material.
it's not difficult to find. Most of the material on the island is the same grain size, mineralogy, and organic content as what we're messing with in the dunes. So this isn't necessarily anything new. All the dune permits that I've put together require a little bit more material to come into the site. Sometimes our site extends past the 1,000-foot line and we can get it off of the site and put it in the dunes. But generally I try to add at least, I call it one dump truck full of material, like you saw in the previous application. They'll have to do the same thing.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Marty, done and done. Marty Fernandez, motion to approve. Mike Diana seconded. BFDP 23-000311.
Okay, Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Barney Farley,
Yes.
Mike Dan,
Yes.
and Chad Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. 4.4, discuss and take action on PPLT and FPLT 23-000435 preliminary and final plat for Las Brisas subdivision. FUD applicant Krisha Properties LP, property location 2530 South 11th Street.
Yeah, you guys will remember this from a few months ago that came forward as a flexible development for the Las Brisas apartment area. This plat is in exact accordance with that, almost the exact same exhibits as you have seen before. Reviewed by a city engineer, both the preliminary and final plat. He found those acceptable. It has been approved by all utilities. City staff recommends approval.
What happened with the driveway? Did that get through the FUD? Did that pass council?
Remind me what the issue was?
No, it was because it was a non-standard driveway.
Or turn around and emergency vehicle access.
Was at our last meeting.
Narrower, I think.
That wasn't on this one. That was on Brandon Lafayette's, right?
No.
It
We
went-
approved it. I
It
think.
went through with council exactly as it went through you guys.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Sorry, I
That's
didn't remember the issue.
Go on, go on.
Hello, Stephen Grunwald with Urban Engineer. Y'all have any other questions? I'd be happy to answer.
It's just, this is essentially the planning of the flexible unit development, right?
Yes, I guess what came before you and council before it was approved was just the concept of doing this layout with a private street versus a standard street. And that's exactly what we've got shown here, so.
So is it still considered a flexible unit development, or we just went through the flexible unit process to get the
It
driveway?
is considered a flexible development
Because we.
in order to get to this
Street.
point.
Got it.
So now you guys are approving it because the flexible unit development variance was approved. So you can pass it like normal now.
Got it.
Motion to approve item 4.4 PPLT and FPLT 23-000435.
Second.
Mike Diana's motion to approve. Nick Labret has seconded the motion to approve PPLT and FPLT 23-000435.
Barney Farley,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
No.
and Craig Scott.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Yes.
Marty,
Yeah, I didn't approve flexible unit development, right? This is for the same thing, so it'd be hard to approve the planning for the one that I don't think meets the gate of flexible unit development to get in. For the same reason I voted no on the flexible unit development.
Okay.
But it's been approved.
all right.
You good on roll?
Yep. Chad Schmidt, sorry about that.
Item 4.5, discuss and take action on PPLT and FPLT 23-000436 preliminary and final plat for Lot 1, Block 1, New Wave subdivision. Applicant New Wave Vacation Rentals, property location 1305 Highway 361.
All right, let me get to that one. All right, so this is technically would normally be considered a minor plat. This property has never been platted. So to plat that requires a street dedication that they never made in the rear of the property on 9th Street. So that bumps it up to planning and zoning and city council kind of approval. Our city engineer has approved. All of our utility companies, apart from the gas company, have approved. I don't foresee there being any issue with the gas company, but I didn't really want to bug them over the last few days to get that approval. They had their hands full. So any motion that you make, I think, needs to be subject to
I see a CenturyLink protest.
yeah, I apologize for that. I did talk to them at CenturyLink too, and as long as that easement is put there, would be okay. It just continues their easement through the property.
Okay, so just. on
So
condition
it
of
needs,
the easement.
correct.
Okay,
It needs to be subject to that as well.
okay.
So subject to the easement being added, subject to gas department final approval. City staff recommends approval.
Okay. Where is the easement?
I think it's easiest if you see, it's not shown on this plat, which is what the issue is.
I think it's on the rear
I think it's,
where Ninth Street.
Where the street dedication that never happened is?
I can't read it on here, but I think that's where it is.
Your eyes aren't thinking?
I can't see it even next to it on this one. I believe it's in the front of the property, though. I don't think it's, I don't think it's on that 9th Street. I think they already exist there. I mean, they're there, they have to be there. So the easement would just make sure that that happens, make sure that that remains.
Michael, are you aware where the easement is?
I'm his brother, Brandon.
Oh, sorry.
He told me to put it up.
Okay. Hey, Brandon, do you know where the easement is?
We'll gladly find that out.
Thank you.
Yeah. You look a lot like him.
Yeah, I know, we get it all the time.
I just thought he grew some facial hair.
Make a motion to approve item 4.5 PPLT and FPLT 23-000436 on condition of gas department approval and the easement being put in place for the utilities for CenturyLink.
I'll second. Mike Down is motion to approve. Craig Scott is seconded. PPLT and FPLT 23-000436.
Okay, Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Barney Farley, Craig Scott,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Marty Phelan.
No.
And Chad Schmidas.
Yes. And for the record,
For the record, when they're approved, I'll consider the application complete and we'll go. The gas and the cable.
We don't understand it, but he does.
Yeah.
The
I mean-
council doesn't understand it.
all right, item 4, are you good?
Yep.
Item 4.6, discuss and take action on PPLT 23-000439 preliminary plat of Marisol subdivision applicant Marisol Villages LLC, property location 4100 block of Highway 361.
Okay, so you guys have seen the Marisol village plats, the Marisol subdivision plats on several different occasions. This is an extension of that. I am going to invite the applicant engineer, though, to come up and present because this one does have a little bit of an ask from them.
Hello, Stephen Grunwald and Sonny Castor, the engineer and applicant on this. What we're doing here is basically requesting that the existing dead end street that ended at the western limit of phase 2 be allowed to be extended further to the west. Right now, that cul-de-sac in phase 2 is at the 1,000-foot limit. But in order to develop that property, just due to its peninsula shape, there's really no other way but to get a single street and not a loop street system through there. There are a lot of wetlands around the property, so we want to respect those and not try to fill them. So what we're asking for is that single dead end street be extended another, I believe, 1,500 feet or 1,900 feet. We are proposing that 2 other additional turnarounds are provided, one at another 1,000 feet and then one at the very end. So as far as distance between street turnarounds, they'll be at or less than the 1,000-foot, which is kind of the standard in the ordinance. If you look at island moorings next door, And I don't know if y'all have my letter I presented.
They do.
We kind of looked at the Island Warren subdivision next door. And just looked at some of those streets. They also have a lot of dead end streets, but most of them just have a turnaround at the very end. And Marina Drive, for instance, it's over 2,000 feet with just a single turnaround at the very end. You know, whereas ours would have, 1,000 foot, a turnaround at 1,000 feet. There's several other streets, Bahia Mar, Mustang, Boulevard, Blue Heron, all are about 1,900 feet with just a single turnaround at the very end. So, there's a subdivision out there with dead end streets in excess of 1,000 feet, which is what we're wanting to do, but we're kind of stepping up and putting turnarounds at least every 1,000 feet, which I think is beneficial to traffic flow and having a place to turn around, which I think is the basis of a lot of that maximum 1,000 feet distance. Sonny Caster's also here, and I don't know if he has anything else to add.
No, except I designed this back in '04. And obviously this 1,000 foot reg did not exist. Right now, this is the last piece of land I have to develop after basically 50 years of development here. Probably close to 1,000 lots either developed or started by virtue of having 1,400 acres plus master plan back in the early 2000s. Well, this is the last I have left, and it turns out I am basically cut off from development if this variance is not granted. I've never asked for variance before, but since I've been involved over here since my father started Island Warren in 1959. I got out of school. The development portion of that and the Marisol project came out long after I started the Newport Village project, which provided the city with a golf course that had been begging for years and years. And like I said, this is my last shot, and I'm really needing this variance in order to develop the rest of the problem on my problem. And it's all I have left. And there's precedent all around us to show that similar long streets have not created a problem. In the history that I know of, there's only been one fire in Island Mooring, and that was at the end of Built Street. I can't remember, but Durham House. And I don't believe there was any problem from accessing that by fire equipment. So it should be a problem here, and we have added as a suggestion by some of the planning commission, not planning director, adding an extra cul-de-sac to make it much easier to turn around in the event of need.
What are the radiuses on these turnarounds?
It's a standard cul-de-sac, 50 feet to the right of way and 40 feet to the back of curb.
Sorry, my eyes aren't that good to look at it on a little paper here.
Understandable.
And is this the full preliminary plat here?
Yes.
Yes. And what's new?
If you want, I
from-
can bring it up on the,
I'm just wondering if it's got all the stuff we're supposed to have on the preliminary plat, the
it-
drainages, the utilities.
All that's there.
That's,
yeah, preliminary
Okay.
you
plat.
got a magnifying glass in your truck?
I put it together so I can.
The preliminary plat was also approved by our city engineer, both. I mean, he looked over it, approved all of the exhibits, everything that goes along with the preliminary plat. The only call out he made was for that 1,000-foot rule that's in our ordinances.
Sure. I think I'm seeing it on this one here. There we go. So this permits the building of 54 more single unit homes, essentially,
Yes, sir.
so 54.
The alternative to that is around 200 condominiums.
Just 1,000 foot.
So 1,000-foot rule is there for a number of different reasons, fire safety reasons. Also convenience reasons, so that somebody driving down the street doesn't have to drive all the way to the very end to turn around and come back, or to use somebody's driveway to make that turnaround.
Is it very explicit, say 1,000 feet, or does?
It does. So on page
Add
160,
a cul-de-sac, a good cul-de-sac.
No.
handle it. Can you do another 1,000 feet?
this is the first test of that, really. The ordinance itself is written, and Hanson's called it out on page 168 of your packet. It does say the minimum radius of said cul-de-sac shall be 40 feet and the maximum length shall be 1,000 feet. So it didn't really take a situation like this into account when writing that ordinance.
Right.
Um,
That's my question. That's what I do for a living also. But, it's not explicitly saying you can't. And the resolution per the ordinance is that there's a appropriate cul-de-sac in 1,000 feet. I'm asking this as a question, but I mean, I don't see, it seems like the additional turnaround resolves the problem with another 1,000 feet. Now, when was this ordinance? I know it wasn't yesterday. How long-
It wasn't,
That's a long
as
time.
far as I can tell, at least 2010.
Right.
I don't know if it was in place anytime before that.
So
It's
y'all know my.
not a new one.
It's not like, as go by the way, we're the ones that are kind of writing code now and then inviting council to approve it. Same kind of knuckleheads like us did back then. I don't say that disrespectfully, but if it doesn't say anything explicitly about it's 1,000 feet and that's it, then it's my belief that the solution of the turnaround per city ordinance gives you the opportunity to go another 1,000. That's the way I would look at it. 'Cause it resolves the intended problem. And I would,
So just the last sentence kind of where
Right.
the line is.
Island Moorings does not have a traffic problem when it comes to 2,000 foot long cul-de-sacs. I mean, they walk them daily. There's not a problem. When invited, I would make that motion.
Okay, invitation is out there. Can I invite a motion?
I make a motion to approve. With the,
You could just say as presented, PPLT 23-000439.
thank you, motion to approve PPLT 23-000439.
Second. Nick Lorez motion to approve. Mike Danis seconded PPLT 23-000439.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Marty Phelan.
No. Barney
Um,
Phelan?
No, I said Marty Phelan, sorry. Oh, you guys threw me off. Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Barney Farley,
Yes.
and Chad Schmitis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marty, just on the record, I can assume why you voted no, but I can't speak for you,
So
so.
I don't see any benefit to the community to not follow the ordinances.
Understood. Item 4.7, discuss and take action on special permit for Palm Fest property location 717 Tarpon Street, applicant Southern Coast Open LLC.
All right, and I'll invite them to come up. Palm Fest, I'm sure that most of you are aware, happened in Roberts Point Park last year. It was a great event that happened over the weekend, brought a lot of people down. Great music, barbecue cook-off. That is granted as a large event, special event through city council because that happens on city property. City council approves that. This proposal this year is for property that they have control over. So this is the same type of event on property that they lease. So that process is a little bit different because the uses that they're wanting to have don't necessarily coincide completely with their commercial 2 zoning. Which is okay. We've got a process in our ordinance. Granted, it's a special permit and you guys can recommend council can approve that permit for that event.
Yeah, my real question is why this one came to us versus the other.
Right,
ones and
because
stuff, and
it's the difference of being on city property versus not city property.
understand. No,
Sure.
but yeah, I read it. It was pretty self-explanatory, I thought.
All right, so Winston and Lee will take it away.
Absolutely. As Nicole said that this year our event will be held at 717 Tarpon, previously Coaches and a parking lot. It's actually going to be our daily operating business. A new business, I should say, will be there. Everything, as it says in the list, that our business or our daily business activity will include are things within the purview of the event. The only 2 things as the city as Coach Hassan, or I shouldn't say Coach, as they've let us know that are outside of the C2 zoning are a large scale cooking competition outside the bounds of say a chili cook-off or a black eyed pea off or whatever it may be that kind of is a regular happenstance in town, and multiple on-site food caterers. We, of course, in the building, in the process, we found out yesterday when we actually take over the property. So I'm in the process of filling the change of use permit out with the official parking structure and seating arrangements and retail spaces and whatnot. Now that'll be filed here shortly, but I wanted to get through this first. Of course, back to my point, the building, we will have an operational kitchen in it. The food vending, for example, for the specific event, because we hope to have more people than our normal daily activity. We hope to be busy, if you will, just like a bar on a weekend hopes to be busier than they are during the weekdays, you know. So we will have caterers come in. Our guests will pay via ticket process, and we will pay our caterers for the ticket collection type of a thing. The money won't change hand directly with the food vendor in our scenario. That's, again, will be daily business operation, whether it's if we don't have the capacity as far as staff goes to be able to cook food, for example, immediately, we bring in a caterer and they serve our crowd, and that would be on a Tuesday, as it will be on a Palm Fest Saturday. I guess those are the 2 main points as to why, from what we know, is we would need a special permit to operate outside of the bounds of our daily business operation and outside the bounds of C2 zoning, although it is, of course, multiple of the activities that will take place in outside of outside of those 2 are, you know, C2 zoned, especially in the area we are.
And we went ahead and included a map just in case there was any question on parking scenarios and situations we've secured close to 100 extra spots offsite within 1 block. More, I mean, plenty close enough for everybody to walk.
Yeah, it looked like
To
pretty
walk outside.
pretty complete applications to me with a lot of detail, and I appreciate that. Made it easier to read and easy to follow. So thank you.
And in just one caveat to that, in the actual site plan, there are 42 parking spaces in the actual site plan.
How many people do you expect to be here?
As many as we can hopefully possibly.
No, what I mean.
Sure,
How many tickets are you guys selling?
absolutely.
Probably in the neighborhood of about 5.
Of course, as my associate here divulged instantly, that is more intellectual property on our business. But of course, we do understand for this scenario that we do have to be a little bit more divulgent with the information. Currently, we're at around the 200 ticket sold mark. Of course, this is a local event where people will be expected to be in town and aren't necessarily going to pre-purchase tickets. But again, as we stated, as any business, whether it's calling it Super Bowl Sunday headquarters or Palm Fest, it's a marketing tactic to get more people in the front door of our business, as numerous of you participate in, as well as, I mean, understandably and assumed, I would think that the city would think that or no, it would be an assumed fact that each business owner is trying to get the maximum amount of people in their doors every day all times. Which is, what we're doing with this event.
How many parking spaces are available at your current proposed site compared to Roberts Point Park from last year?
Roberts Point Park, the marina was designated. I don't have an exact count on that. I do know that.
Do you feel like you have more parking or less parking?
I mean, that's the biggest parking lot in town, so I don't.
I would figure it's probably somewhere close.
Nicole, do you know?
I don't know the number of
Because
parking spots, so I'm trying to.
Public that day with their boats and everything else. We did not commandeer the whole parking lot by any stretch of the imagination. We just filtered our people through what was already being.
And I think anybody that was a part of the event last year, or the council members that approved it last year will say that there were no parking issues, no traffic issues. There was never a congestion or anything of that nature. And of course, it was a bigger space, but that was the space available, so we filled it up. The space was bigger than the event. It was all to set up future events was what that show was for. It was a little bit overscale. It was a little bit more than we should have bitten off, so on and so forth, as far as the presentation. But we had to solidify that we were the ones that put events on.
Do you know how many tickets you sold last year?
Around 186 individual tickets.
Okay. I see on the applications or on the approvals for parking for a couple of the,
I'm sorry to
Land-
interrupt you, sir. We did have a free section of the venue where we had a kids park, free rides for the
so no,
community. and
you had
things
more
like
than
that.
186.
Absolutely, absolutely. As far as actual music venue, that portion that was private and paid to enter for the 11 bands over 2 days type of a thing, we had that many individual tickets sold for that single portion. So,
Okay. Another thing I noticed is with the individual landowners approvals of the parking, looked like there were several that only approved the parking for the first weekend
yes, sir.
and not for the second weekend.
Yes, sir. We can, of course, gain approval for the other 2 weekends. I think a couple of them put caveats in there that if needed.
But yeah, there was one that said addition
Any
was
other time
available,
further, yes.
but others
So the-
just kind of cut it off right after the first weekend.
We can just say yes, to just because the point is our second weekend is only a barbecue contest that will have maximum 20 competitors. The rest will be daily business operation, and it's not open to the public. They're using our grounds to participate in the barbecue competition. So the single external parking lot would suffice for the additional guests that we would have for that afternoon, or that weekend, I should say.
Okay. So no concerts on the second weekend.
We'll have live music
Live
just
music,
as,
But nothing to the level of that first weekend. No.
And your
Just like
headliners
you
for the concerts are on the first weekend
yes, sir.
and they're off-site. Are they going to be at this specific location that
Yes,
you're
yes, sir.
requesting? Because I guess I saw 2 participating weekend 1 acts are currently booked at other Port Aransas venues.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Oh,
so
That speaks to again, our point that we're participating in normal business operations, whether we have a number of bands in a single day or one. There are 2 people within our lineup that are currently booked at other Port Aransas quote unquote venues. So that's just speaking to, we're not bringing in.
these 2 people that are booked, are these your headline?
No, sir.
No.
Well, first night headliner, yes, sir. Friday, our head Friday.
So in other words, what I'm getting to is who's going to bring in the most people and when are they going to bring them in?
Sure.
And so that's all the first night, the Friday night.
That would be Saturday. Saturday would
Saturday.
be our larger music lineup with more known names and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Our headliner just played at Green Hall last weekend.
I heard it was packed.
Well, they have a sellout capacity as well.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What's the maximum number of entrants that are, I don't know what the capacity.
We don't want to hold over 500.
marshal, so I don't know.
So we don't really know the capacity there either. Like you said, they have not gained control over that business yet. It's still coaches. They have to do that, get a change of use before we can look at their plan, determine what their occupancy for that property is.
It's a 11,000 square feet of gross usage space with no perimeter fences, only a perimeter post with so I mean, if we use an example as the back porch bar, they didn't have a capacity because the fire marshal stated you can climb over the rail if needed, step over the rail, I should say. And that was much less than, of course, 11,000 plus square feet. Now, internally, I wouldn't like to host any more than 500 people at any given time at our venue, which
Yeah, that's serious of that.
So how do, and I know we're doing restaurants.
Correct.
for every 4 seats, we have to have 1 parking place.
Correct. Typically on
How does
a
that work?
a smaller, a property that doesn't have a lot of parking, your occupancy is really gonna be determined on your parking. Some places,
Would y'all like to see a site plan?
I think there's one in
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
There's a Palm Fest I'm talking about for the actual daily business operations. So I want to make.
yeah,
sure
go ahead,
that
you
we
can give
have-
that out to him.
That we are talking about, you know, a named weekend with a marketing event, just as anybody would call themselves spring break headquarters or Super Bowl headquarters or host a liquor truck outside of their business over this last weekend. Again, it's our 90% of this is, or 95% of this is our normal daily business operation. Again, we found out yesterday when we will actually gain control of the building as far as the current tenant will vacate it. So I'm literally sitting in the back on a hotspot, filling out everything I need to with this labeled site plan. My apologies, my version has the actual number for the key. But I will tell you, the actual seating comes out to 112 seats within that site plan, area 1 and 2, I believe, which is 28 parking spots. The retail, the permanent structure will be retail and food ordering. There won't be any seating inside. In the outside, temporary structures, i.e. poles and shade cloth and whatnot, market style, if you will, or kind of back like the old days, will be 2,750 square feet exactly, which is 11 parking spots, which requires 39 overall. In our site map that you have in front of you, we have 42 parking spots.
Here's another, I don't know the answer to sanitation.
That again is gonna be a building code issue. For their regular day-to-day operations for this kind of special event, you guys can, you know, help work that out with them. There's gonna be a standard that they have to meet based on occupancy and building codes. But you can request more. That's all under your purview.
Do you plan to bring in more porta potties than you had last year?
Than we had last year.
Correct.
Last year we had a large, comfort station. The air conditioner trailer, and I believe 16 porta potties, and the guy came to service them once, but he didn't really have to, but he did anyway, since we paid for it. We were extremely over prepared last year, both with those and dumpsters. Of course, I would personally feel that that's more of an internal business decision on how comfortable we want to make our customers with where they can use the restroom. Of course, I do understand sanitation and not wanting somebody while they're in a crowd. Of course, we don't exactly pull the spring break crowd, right? I'm not sure if anybody would have the pleasure of visiting the beach this past weekend, or if anybody else is working down there, but it's not exactly the same clientele, if you will. It's not a cheap ticket. It's not a small it's not just a non-well put together event, if you will. It expects a different type of clientele than say a spring break crowd or a 4th of July crowd or so on and so forth.
We'll have it very secure.
Sure. So I just had one additional question. And forgive me, I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about this ahead of time. We've been dealing with the gas situation and I didn't get this till Friday. So a couple of the parking agreements that you have are for businesses that are up and running. Are they going to be up and running that day?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
That-
So at least one of those is very problematic. Oceans of Seafood has the correct number of parking to run his
They're currently
business.
closed, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah, he's close to
So
business.
he's- okay, that's what I'm saying. So he's not up and running. Okay,
running.
so those parking spots can still count. Now, Billy Gaskins, I know, has a great deal of parking on his location.
And he only will have one boat in the water. And so he figured the number of people max for the Mustang as well as the Parasail.
Sure.
And Alex Porter came out to 35 spots of the 80 he had.
Right?
So he offered me the other 45.
Okay. Since then, they have come in with golf carts that they're going to have there on site.
Okay.
I can't remember how many golf carts they told me, but I want to say it was about between 20 and 30. So that would have to be kind of a reduction from that as well, because he's going to have the golf cart parking spots too.
And I think I would say at that point that I personally feel that even the additional parking spots, there's a large number of them. I would even say without Billy's, I wouldn't see that being an issue as far as our parking. It's also the type of event. I mean, I do think there has to be assumed things where, you know, on both sides of the road where for this type of event, not everybody is going to drive their car. There will be drop-offs. We will have shuttle services posted. And again, that's not within the plan, but that's all our internal business operations, you know, as far as the even that will be a regular offering.
Where are your shuttle services operating from? So people that
Operating
pick up
from-
the shuttle, do you have like a parking lot down 360?
We would have somebody that, for example, called and said, I'm staying at Mustang Towers and we got 4 tickets.
It's a full on Uber.
Well, we hope so. Yes, sir. That's the plan. Not a full on Uber. No, sir. It's a service that our event hopes to provide, our establishment, I should say, hopes to provide.
And that goes to the clientele, right? And the services you're offering.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a motion to approve?
Now,
If there's more questions or not?
I would like to, again, make very sure that the special permit, which again, Nicole can speak to the number of special permits that were either, let's use, for example, over spring break that were pulled. I have a folder of 16 examples of operations outside of normal daily business activity. In the year 2022 was our example, Nicole. There were 0 special permits pulled in Port Aransas. The last one that the city estimated was Sharky's for a chili cook-off, possibly was the last one. So I would like to make it known that if we are getting a special permit for anything outside of our non-daily activity, that was going to set a different type of precedent for all establishments in Port Aransas. So we have to make sure I would like to make sure that this special permit would be approved for 2 very specific things, which are if we were to have multiple on-site non-regular daily business activity vendors as far as food goes, caterers, food providers, and a large scale barbecue competition. Because if we can't classify it as that, then there's no more chili cook-offs without somebody coming in here. There's no more of any of that type of stuff without somebody coming in here.
I wasn't real clear on what you just said.
Okay.
So
yes,
that
sir.
would only depend on that being on private property, not public property, correct?
Private business property. Yes, sir. My comments were that I wanted to make sure that the entire purview of our event isn't requiring a special permit. It's 2 very specific things within our event, within our weekend activities, I should even say, that are requiring a special permit, which are a large scale cooking competition. And if we do bring in a number of outside vendors not related to our business.
That's what the permit's for, right? Other than that, everything is enveloped by normal business.
Yes,
activities.
sir. That's our.
I just want to
thought.
bring to everybody's.
That's our thought. Of course, you guys make the rules. That's our beliefs as far as what we're trying to do.
But right now you don't have any normal business
ma'am.
ventures set up there, so until that's in place, it kind of is for the whole thing, but those 2 things, had you guys had that in place before, then it would only be for those 2 things, because you don't have anything in place right now. It would have to be for the whole aspect.
Would you accept a change of use permit at this time?
I mean,
I have it filled out.
not at this meeting, now it goes to the building department.
You do that, you'll get one more no vote. I'm only voting on what I've read.
Yeah.
The parking seems to be the thing that's still kind of a mystery because we don't know how many people are coming, how many are going. And I know all your neighbors have expressed concern about the parking spillover and I don't.
From our establishment.
From this event. It's, there's concern amongst your neighbors that, hey, look, there's a vacant lot right there. Let's go park here. Or, hey, here's a giant parking lot over here at Fisherman's Wharf. Let's go park there. Or,
Sure.
hey, here's Virginia's, another big parking lot, Trout Street. They've all had something to say about it.
Like daily operation as it is
Well,
currently.
just, I think.
Right, but daily
Service
operation
spillover.
isn't 500 more people.
I
So, mean,
absolutely,
it
I
definitely is
understood,
not.
absolutely, absolutely understand.
I don't think they're so worried about your daily operations. I think they're worried about the event of 500. Right.
Just right here.
They're worried about this event and their daily operations.
Absolutely.
So, and then like the spot over here on Tarrant, which I haven't looked at it to know. I mean, we classify as a parking spot as 9 by 18, plus you have to have a 24-foot turnaround, all that. I haven't gone, put a tape measure on this property to see how many cars you can park in there. I'm assuming it'd have to be stacked.
Each side of the lot, because the way that they normally do it over there, and they allot us 12 spots there, because that's what they fit in there on a regular basis.
So on that note, I think Tarrant right there is that R1, right? In that
It's
little
not,
section?
it's C2. They're all C2.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
So
we-
parking lots are allowed.
Mhm.
Okay, So that's good stuff.
Well, there's not an RV on there
Yeah,
anymore.
the RV is gone.
Yeah, that's an old photo.
But that is the lot right here
Mhm.
in this area. This RV is gone.
Right,
This
the little tiny house. is
house
the only
remains the
thing-
same.
Is the only thing that's there, yes. And we figured it. We hadn't figured out anything, we're gonna have to subtract off of Billy, but what we had it figured out was,
And that just happened last week.
right, it came out to 130 spots if we average the 4 people per spot, then we're well over 500 there.
Wait, say it again. Sorry, miss that one.
Parking spot is 4 people per spot. You need a spot for every 4 people that you have
Correct. In a restaurant.
in a restaurant. That we're just going off that. If you want to go off the square footage, I believe it comes out almost identical
That's
for us.
close.
In that. We were at just, I think it was 129 spots. You take 4 times the 129, we're over the 500 that we don't want any more than 500.
Where are you guys getting 129?
That's all 80.
It was R42,
And then the 8, I'm showing 82
Yeah.
in the other one.
right, and then, but we haven't also included, well.
That's not in there, so you can't count it.
Yeah.
The property at the historical Shorties and Flats location also has 18, and that won't be open to the public during that time. But of course, it's not
We
in
can,
here.
I mean, but you would be able to park people there and
Yes,
count that as
absolutely.
parking.
If we're able to count on this, it's not included.
It wasn't included in
Yeah.
what we gave y'all, but yes, it is a property that we lease that we have control over, so we would be able to use those 18 spots.
There would be no issue with using those spots.
How are you gonna invite them to go to these designated parking areas?
Be a similar map that Nicole made that we haven't put into circulation yet, as it hasn't been approved. We'll have a Google satellite view such as this with the animation in it to show people the proximity to our location, the walking instructions, everything is within. And the greatest one is, I mean, people walk 2 miles to go to ACL, not that we're talking about ACL, but people walk 2 miles to go down. 100%, but it's okay, so in normal market days in Rockport, for example, or in Palmia, it's that far, for example.
I
Again,
just bet you'll have a lot more people parking Woody's and Trout Street and Virginia's than you will in those other parking spots.
Woody's, I don't believe has any parking spaces. I believe it's all dirt currently and closed off. And of course, that is part of our, again, it's kind of difficult to know exactly what detail to go in with these plans, as I haven't necessarily presented to P and Z before City Hall a number of times. But as far as a security officer in a Trout Street parking lot, just like one of my first jobs when I went to college was sitting in the bank parking lot, making sure none of our guests went there from the restaurant type of a thing. We have contingency plans in place, but again, it's difficult to know exactly what detail, both from our business angle and, publicly needing to let the P and Z know.
We'll know more after the event happens.
Yeah,
I mean, that's sincerely,
you gotta learn.
you'll learn from, we'll all learn from.
I like both these guys a lot and know them all the time. It's just, there's so
Yeah.
much gray area around this right now. It's
We'll
just
know
like,
more after.
what happens when it becomes 2,000 people?
We don't, there won't be 2,000 people allowed into the event. I don't, when we hit a 500 mark, that there's no more, we're sold out, there is no more tickets for sale, we're not letting anybody else in, I don't even know if we're gonna even get to that number. But that was the very top end that we had in mind. We don't want to try to handle more than 500 people. It's already a tall task to do that, I've been doing it a long time now, like handling people in that sort of situation. 500 is a handful. Without the proper staffing, without the proper security, without those sorts of things in place.
But if anyone's listening online, limited availability, get your tickets now, that's what, we still have to market this thing,
But there's a finite number of tickets that we're even willing to sell. It's not just, hey, if 1,000 people show up on that Saturday, hey, if you're willing to pay for your ticket, come on in. No, that's not the way it's gonna go. That's not the event the type of event we want to have.
as a, I mean, I guess a good example would be whatever street, some of the bars at night where they have allotted space, but at any given time, they're trying to get more people in the door than their allotted parking spaces. So, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying we're going to control it better than I would estimate 90% of businesses in Port Aransas do, especially for this single weekend. I guess my point being, we have a large number of parking spaces. We're going to have a curated crowd and external parking plans that will be monitored and advertised as such. So we will be taking every precaution as far as the main issue, which of course we know is parking.
There's just, no offense, it's just a lot of this is very vague. So these 82 parking stalls that are broken down here by address, do you have the number of spaces per address?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I'm just going off of stuff we normally do around here. It's like when you see a parking plan, you got to see the 9x18, you got to see the 24-foot turnaround, you got to see all the pieces that add up to make it add up to what the parking is.
As of course, Nicole addressed the Woody's Last Stand, but that is 45 spots.
Which address is that one?
That is, I have it right here.
I believe he's the 154 Cotter.
yes. 154 Cotter,
That's 45.
and then 15 parking site 415 across the street at Oceans of Seafood.
Is that the
165 West
Parking
Carter.
lot site 4.
That's one.
And he is,
165 West Carter.
we're
Okay,
sure that he is
that's not
shut
on
down
there.
and going to remain
Yes,
that way.
Yes, he is not opening back up for business.
I see a 164 West Cotter. I don't see-
My
That's
apologies.
164.
165.
Sorry, if you go to page 174, they're listed there.
I see 154.
It should have been 165. My apologies. It's listed as 164 West Carter.
Yeah, it should be
How
odd.
many's on that spot?
15.
And White. Is that White Avenue?
There's 10 there.
I lost her.
Commercial boat barn area.
Yeah. The commercial boat barn.
Is it?
It's 159 West Carter.
Is
Yeah,
it?
West White.
West White, excuse me.
Okay.
I'll pull that up here for you guys.
So what's on that property now?
It's a rundown old boat barn that belongs to a Mr. John Coon. That he is not fixed since, I guess, the hurricane.
Rundown is a matter of opinion.
And how many are on that site?
10,
Okay. And then what about the 318 Tarrant?
they allotted us 12.
That's it.
No, that's 82. I got that. I'm trying to figure out.
How about the ferry landing and the old computer center?
As far as
I'll be quiet now.
external.
It's softball field, so they can walk down Beach Street and they go down there and they come back.
We weren't sure as far as, I didn't know if there was a process as far as asking the city permission for parking on a city property if you're not using it. But yeah, we'd love to use anything you got. Also, we have the beach vending permit. Does that count? We can.
You can
show
park on
people that.
beach.
I have beach parking permits, a bunch of rolls of.
We could sell
Yeah,
them.
good to go.
So it brings me to this question. So do you guys actually like sketch this out or figured out how you're going to Tetris this parking together?
In the external spots.
Well,
Or in
yeah,
the-
like,
the-
let's just
the
say
alternative
the
parking
318
locations.
Tarrant. And because, and this is definitely, this is out of our wheelhouse and stuff. we
No, I
normally
got
do.
you.
And so when we look at Lee's opening a new restaurant, you're going to have a perfect parking plan, which lays out what happens. So I don't know how big 318 Tarrant is.
Yeah, if the first guy comes and parks,
Right, no,
You know.
that's part of having a monitor there that has people, that is parking people, much like you would see outside the American Bank Center during a concert night. They have people, they're taking money, which we will not be doing, but directing people on parking, so everything is accessible at all times. We're not gonna, don't want anybody ever boxed in. We don't ever want to have to deal with those sorts of phone calls in the middle of the event going off. The last thing we want to do is upset one of our guests. I mean, like I said, we're trying to cater to a specific type of guest that comes.
We're catering to the Port Aransas guests. No.
Anybody have a clue how big that lot is?
You're talking about the Terrence Street lot?
Yes. 5,000 square feet, 12 spots works. If it's 3,000 square feet, it doesn't get anywhere close.
Well. I can tell you what NCAD says.
Chad, I do believe we know the same owners. You can feel free to have them reach out. They all have my number at any time if they have any concerns with anything.
Oh, no, I understand. It's, there's heard a lot about it in the last couple of days because everybody's concerned about the parking, which, based on 82 spots, that says 328 maximum. You guys are saying 500-foot maximum.
So we also have the 42 around our actual venue and another 18 with the shorties and the old flex building.
5,400.
So, okay, so it works on that one. Oh. Okay, it's just weird.
It doesn't work. I'm gonna go ahead and,
Well, I'm saying if I do the 9x18
I mean,
and
we
a 24-foot turnaround.
there has to be some level of objectivity and, real data, which you don't have. I qualified that already. I mean, you don't have enough data.
Data on what specific items, sir?
Everything you're talking about, you don't have enough data. It's okay. I'm gonna recommend approving this thing.
Yes, sir.
And that we're gonna watch and see, I think. But, I'm not gonna be down there, but in my youth, I'd be down there, but I wouldn't be paying, but I'd be parking somewhere and hanging out in the street, et cetera. We don't know what's gonna happen down there until we watch it. My point is, everything we do down here is objective. Size of the lot, prescribed rules, regulations on how big a restaurant you can put on there, how much parking. And you're coming from another end with no data. I respect you trying to give us some data, but the reality is the data you're giving us is at best a hypothetical guess, and that's fine, because that's what you're trying to do. And we'll all learn from it. So I think we go for it and we share that with the council that we're gonna have to see. We're not gonna know. unless we-
I kind of see it the same way Nick does, a special use permit. We know what happened over at Roberts Point last year, right? Now we're taking it downtown. We know parking and access downtown is an issue, right? It looks on the surface that the issues are addressed. But it's gonna be kind of a crapshoot, right? I mean, if you wind up with Woodstock, you wind up with Woodstock, right? But you're gonna limit the sales to 500 tickets. Looks like it should work from what we've seen. So, but I agree that there's a lot of unknowns on a special use permit that next year we can make a better informed decision. But this one's kind of is what it is. I thought that's at least the way I read it and stuff like that when I went through the application.
But as a process guy, you can appreciate the fact that we a little bit more clarity.
Oh, I am. And if this was a permanent structure and a permanent restaurant, and that's a whole different thing.
And to clarify again, as of
And I
right
am a
now,
process guy.
you're right. We know, that's why I bring it up. So as of right now, where we stand, do you have access to that property in its entirety today, right here, right now?
We can start working on the exterior of the building. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and that's through a lease or you own it? Or
No, sir. You can't buy that property. That's a lease.
Yes, sir.
And the lease is in place already?
It's in the inbox. We haven't
It's in the
executed it.
inbox? What?
I have
what-
received it into my email inbox from Judge Neblett, the lawyer for the family. I have yet to sign it and execute it. I've been preparing over the last couple of days for this exact thing.
So as of right now, you do not have the lease?
Correct.
Okay.
Technically, you can't be applying. I don't think. Can you? We've never been able to do that in the other kind of real estate.
I wouldn't, I'm not sure if an understanding between the property owner and us suffices, which she would of course attest to, as will their attorney of record. But just answering your question directly, we've still been reviewing. I found out yesterday exactly what the exit date was of the current tenant. So that was one item we have been waiting on to put in the actual paperwork.
Have you considered using Roberts Point Park again?
It costs an exorbitant amount of money to create an event like that within 2 days. That's why we're doing it on our area during, and that's why we were wanting to do it at our location, as it will be a part, the same type of thing will be a part of our normal daily activity once we do have that established.
Why would you be doing it within 2 days when you have a month and a half before the event?
The city terms, for example, last year, we were able to start setting up the Thursday before the event started on Friday. Of course, the gentlemen, the people at Parks and Rec were generous enough to let us start setting up on later on Wednesday. Getting a stage to drive down from Austin, for example, is a much higher cost than it is to have your own area designated for a band. That, you know, they drive down for a day, they wait for you to finish, and they leave, and they ask for a really large check because it's a large stage built into a trailer type of a thing.
Look at me. Make a motion to approve. Put it to a vote and see where we land.
So it still does go to council and they still have,
They make a decision.
and they still make a decision. I know that you guys said that there was some gray areas and things. If there was anything that needed to be clarified prior to council, that would probably be a good suggestion to give the applicants to prepare for that meeting a little bit better.
Oh, sorry. Marty Feathers, motion to approve.
Second.
Nick Loretta seconded. This is. No, it doesn't have an item number. Item 4.7.
Hang on just a second. Let me get caught up. Marty. Okay, Barney Farley.
Yes, am I supposed to recuse myself?
You can,
think so.
I mean, technically, you're not receiving any income from this,
Do
so
I make
there's
bucks
no,
out of this?
there's no conflict of interest, so you.
Talk after.
Are you using this likeness?
Mike Dayon,
No.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
Yes.
Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Chad Schmidas.
I'm gonna abstain with I feel like the package is incomplete. There's too many gray areas to give a special permit without really knowing the whole thing. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Motion's passed, but it's, I'm
Sure.
abstaining on it.
Do you think that council would benefit in having any additional knowledge?
I think we would need to see the parking agreements be proper. I think we need to see parking drawn out on the locations. Meaning proper, have the exact dates in there. We're still missing places right now. They're only 328 versus 500 because you don't have the parking agreements for the other.
How about a lease in place for the?
A lease in place for the property.
I would expect that it's going to be in place before the end of April.
Anyway, I don't want to set up, it doesn't matter. It's going to carry, but we're setting a precedent for something that without having a complete package. And
We are setting it both ways, though.
Be a process guy, vote no.
I would say.
I love the idea of extreme process guide, but.
We are setting a precedent both ways. I would like to also
But
make that
having a lease
a
is
point.
more-
Any other business that will even remotely operate outside of their daily activity now would have to then come and get a special permit, correct?
Everybody would be held to the same standard, yes.
Okay,
Okay, motion carries.
thank
See you guys in
you.
April.
Appreciate it. Do we come back later? That's that.
No, April.
All right. All right, back to page 1. Item number 5, planning and zoning commission comments and items for future consideration.
We'll see you guys in 20 minutes for our next meeting.
Where do we see?
We're gonna have it set up a little bit differently. You guys are gonna be down at the white table, the kiddies table.
Call to adjourn City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Thursday, March 23rd at 2:42 p.m. Thank you.
I'll leave these here.
I guess I saw it differently because of special use versus. I agree with that, at least the point I.
Well, this Lucy Goosey.
I mean, they're paying for a
Lucy Goosey.